You're watching KHQA This Morning. It's your news now.
5:15 in the a.m. Kristen Aguirre outside this morning. Kristen, what are you up to? And you're in a cemetery, it looks like.
I am. I'm here at the Woodland Cemetery, and coming up late in the show, I'm going to get a tour of the Woodland Cemetery. The Historical Society of Quincy and Adams County holds them every year on All Saints Day, so I'm going to get a sneak peek of what people can see on that tour. It's very spooky and cold.
And perhaps a little educational thrown in there as well.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll see you in a bit. Now over to the news desk.
Also in the dark this morning, but just because she's outside, is Kristen Aguirre. She's in a cemetery. How's it going, Kristen?
It is going good. I am here at Woodland Cemetery, and with me now is Reg Ankrum, who is from the Quincy Historical Society. And you guys, this is the first year you guys are taking over these Woodland Cemetery tours, right?
Yes, the Gardner Museum had done it for several years, and in March, when they closed, we acquired the Gardner, and we were fortunate enough to acquire one of their programs, the cemetery tour of Woodland Cemetery.
And so you guys hold it actually the day after Halloween, which is All Saints Day. And what can people expect when they come on the tour?
Well, they can expect an hour of Quincy history. It's latent history because the people we'll be talking about are resting here at Woodland Cemetery, along with 60,000 other souls from Quincy and Adams County.
Wow. And so on the tour, you guys are actually going to have people kind of playing the personas of the people that have passed away.
Yes, we have guided tours, and we have 6 stops on those tours at which people will be impersonating the people who are buried at that location. People like William Richardson, who was the U.S. Senator during the Civil War, and John Wood, who founded the city of Quincy and actually founded this cemetery.
Well, being at a cemetery, it's very kind of creepy and eerie, but really, this is a place that has a lot of history.
Yes, and John Wood was created a cemetery in the Victorian age, and so the cemeteries were more not creepy, they were very restful. People came here to repose, meditate, reflect, and be with their loved ones. Sometimes they would bring picnic lunches and spend the afternoon communing with those around them.
Raj, how did you find your love for history?
I met a fellow named David Costigan, who was a professor of history at Quincy University about 6 years ago, and Dave was so passionate about history, and he instilled that in me.
All right, well, coming up later in the show, Reg is going to instill some of his love for history into me, and we're going to take a sneak peek at the Woodland Cemetery tour.
Woodland Cemetery, just in general, is a very interesting cemetery, the layout of it and everything.
And creepy at night or early in the morning.
60,000 people.
Wow.
That's a lot.
All right, thank you, Kristen.
A lot.
Over now, Kristen Aguirre is outside this morning at Woodland Cemetery.
Yeah, she's getting a little private tour of the graveyard. Kristen, how is it going? Creepy?
It is creepy, but with all the lights, and I have 2 strong men here with me, so I feel like us 3 could take anything on, so I think we're okay. With me now is Reg Ankrum from the Historical Society of Quincy and Adams County to tell us a little bit about the Woodland Cemetery tour that's going to be held on the All Saints Day, the day after Halloween. John Wood did everything in this city, including building this cemetery, right?
Yeah, one of the young men who first met John Wood called him a force of nature. He was a builder. He founded the city. He built a bank. He had a huge farm. He had 23 men working on that farm. He had a lumber yard. He had an agricultural implements dealership. The guy really was a force of nature. And by 1846, when he was 48 years old, he started thinking about his own mortality, and he decided to create this cemetery, a place where he and his friends and neighbors could rest after their death.
And so a lot of these monuments we see here are going to be like the ones that we see on the tour.
Yes, the guides will be taking people past hundreds of monuments and in the main block, and then they will stop at 6 locations where there will be people to portray those who rest there, including John Wood.
Mm-hmm. And so you were just saying something a little interesting too. John Wood actually brought his father to the cemetery.
Yes, John Wood was governor for 10 months, and during that period of time in 1860, he went to Cuyahoga County, New York. He had his dad's body exhumed, and he brought it to Quincy and had it buried, and it's one of the spots we'll see on the tour.
And so, I know you guys hold it now around Halloween, but what is the real reason you guys hold these tours? Is it for history?
It's a little of both. It's to remind us of our own mortality, I think, but also to see history. People here were giants. We'll pass the grave of Mr. Pitney, Pitney Bowes fame, and Michael Piggott, one of the first Irishmen who became a historian of the Irish in Quincy. We'll pass the grave of Louisa Mertz, a person who saved the John Wood Mansion, which just a few years ago was named one of the most important architectural structures in Quincy. So there's a tremendous amount of history that covers the nation. I mean, I like to say Quincy is sort of the center of the universe.
All right, thanks, Reg. Well, coming up later in the show, we're going to continue our tour and hear more about who lays to rest here in the Woodland Cemetery.
Cool. I think cemeteries are
kind of, and I've been in Woodland Cemetery at this time in the morning, and it's you hear something, you're like, oh, that.
Yeah,
Nothing, obviously, but yeah.
We're going to check in with Kristen Aguirre now, who is getting ready for Halloween.
Yeah, she's in a cemetery this morning.
Good morning, Kristen.
Kristen?
I am definitely getting ready for Halloween here at the Woodland Cemetery. With me now is Reg Ankrum, who's going to be giving the Woodland Cemetery tours on All Saints the day after Halloween. There are a ton of people laid to rest here, right?
Yeah, there are 60,000 souls buried here, and if you think about the fact Quincy is around 40,000, we have 50% more than those who are living buried here who are dead.
Well, that's a little eerie. You have a map of what's we're going to be seeing when we go on to the tour on Thursday.
Yes, we're actually visiting one of 16 blocks in the cemetery, and these include 12 people whose bodies are buried here, and then 6 who are represented by people who will be portraying them while we're passing through the cemetery that night.
And so you guys are going to be walking through kind of like how we are, just kind of walking through and seeing everything. And you, like you said, you're going to have people kind of pretending to be the people that are laid to rest, and you are going to be one of those people too.
Yeah, I have the pleasure of portraying William Richardson, who was the U.S. Senator elected by the legislature. He was from Quincy and followed Orville Hickman Browning into the U.S. Senate during the Civil War. Richardson was a protege of Stephen Douglas, whose career started here.
And laid to rest here are some of Quincy's most historical figures, other than the one that you're portraying later.
Yeah, there are many. I could point to one, Eliza Browning, who was the wife of Orville Hickman Browning, who was the longest female relationship Lincoln had. He met Eliza Browning in Vandalia in 1834, and they knew one another. The Brownings and the Lincolns were very close as families until he died in 1865. So it was the woman Lincoln knew longest in his life.
So it's fun to celebrate Halloween and kind of be here and have that eerie feeling, but it's also a really cool tour because you're learning all about Quincy's history. And just like Reg says, all roads lead back to Quincy.
Very interesting.
Well, all our roads are now leading to the weather lab. Here is a check. Let's check in with Kristen Aguirre again, who is live this morning in Quincy.
Yes, she is learning about the history of Quincy through a cemetery. How's it going, Kristen?
It's going good. I am learning so much about Quincy's history. I'm here at the Woodland Cemetery, and coming up on Thursday, the Quincy's Historical Society of Quincy and Adams County will be holding actual Woodland Cemetery tours in light of All Saints Day and Halloween. So what can people expect when they come on these tours?
Well, they can see things just as we're seeing here. We'll be walking by the graves of dozens of Quincyans who are buried here. And then, of course, we'll be stopping at 6 sites, and we're docents, or people, will be portraying people who are buried here. So
people will be going on a tour just like how we kind of are, just kind of walking through and looking at some of these beautiful monuments where people have laid to rest.
Yes, the monuments themselves tell the story in many cases. At one, there are 10 children who died in one family, and there's a lamb and a baby on a monument to represent those children who have died. At the Gottlieb Arning place, there's the anvil and quenching pot. He was a blacksmith who came here from Germany in 1846.
And so there are 60,000 people laid to rest here, and some of them include some of Quincy's most historical figures.
Yes, one that we're particularly fond of is Louisa Mertz. She was a young woman who saved the John Wood Mansion when the mansion was supposed to be torn down to build an alley. And she raised a small committee. They raised money, bought the mansion, and saved the mansion, which today is considered one of the most important sites architecturally in Illinois.
Well, I have learned so much this morning just going through this cemetery. It's amazing how much you can really see how history has grown throughout the years.
Really cool.
Very nice. Coming up, we have a reporter out as well this morning.
Yes.
Not talking Sandy, you're talking cemetery.
Sure am. I'm here at the Woodland Cemetery, and it's starting to get a little creepy. There's a full moon out. I'm getting a little bit scared. I heard a squeak. It's a perfect place to be hanging out on Halloween or All Saints Day when the Quincy Historical Society will be holding tours here. They will be doing tours on just this Block 10. Here's an example of what they'll be showing. There are over 60,000 people buried here, including some of Quincy's most historical figures like John Wood, who actually built this cemetery in 1846. He actually lived right here. And this house right behind us, it's completely redone, but that's where he lived, and he actually took care of these grounds for 35 years until he passed away in 1880. Just so interesting. Like I said, a little spooky, but there are some Quincy's most, historical figures that are buried here. People will be here on Thursday for All Saints Day, and they will be taking a tour of the cemetery, just kind of walking through like we've been doing all morning, and really getting an inside look at what historical figures are buried here at the cemetery.
Do you know?
What time are the tours?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know, but they are sold out. But if you want some more information on the Woodland Cemetery tour, visit our website at connecttristates.com, because you can come here on your own and kind of take the tour yourself. But the tickets were already sold out because that's how much people just love history.
Now, the tour is going to be more historic, or is it going to be a little creepy?
No, it will be a little creepy because they will have people impersonating the historical figures on the tour of their grave sites they'll be visiting.
Starting to come up yet? Oh, okay, and she's gone. So we will, I guess I'll ask her when she comes back.